Daytime television, a mainstay in the homes of housewives, university students, and the unemployed. Daytime television shows have long held a significant place in the lives of viewers around the world. These programs, which typically air during daylight hours, serve as a source of entertainment, information, and companionship for countless individuals. While some may dismiss daytime television as trivial or frivolous, the importance should not be underestimated. From talk shows to soap operas to game shows to lifestyle programs, daytime television offers a diverse range of content that caters to the interests and the needs of the audience. The undeniable significance of daytime television shows and why they hold such a special place in our daily routines is exactly why Phillip Schofield's most recent departure has become a huge conversation for This Morning viewers across the globe. So, what did he do? Phillip Schofield is a British TV presenter who has come under fire amidst grooming allegations of his former TV runner, Matthew Mcgreevy. Knowing this kid since he was a minor, many have suspected that their inappropriate on-set relationship was known by everyone, including colleagues and guests behind the scenes. In what many are calling daytime television's biggest cover-up ever. Phillip Schofield, born on April Fool's 1962, is a 61-year-old British television presenter born and raised in Lancashire. After working at a hospital radio station in Plymouth from age 15, he had his eyes set on bigger ventures within presenting. His rags to riches story is that many years ago he wrote letters to the BBC, before he finally, at age 17, got the position of a bookings clerk and a tea boy for the BBC Radio at the Broadcasting House in London, where he was the youngest employee at the time. Phillip is also a dual citizen from New Zealand, and at age 19, Schofield moved to New Zealand with his family, where he made his television debut as the initial presenter of the youth programme Shazam in February 1982. Upon returning to Britain in 1985, Phillip started work with the BBC, where he began his rise to fame. After several years working for the BBC, he signed an exclusive contract with ITV in 2002. It was then that he replaced John Leslie on the morning television show This Morning. He hosted alongside Fern Britton from 2002 to 2009, and then with Holly Willoughby thereafter. He got married to his long-term partner Stephanie Lowe in 1993, and they have 2 daughters together. The perfect representation of the happy British family. However, Phillip shocked the nation in 2020 when he separated from his wife and came out as gay via a statement on Instagram. And of course, this bravery was discussed on This Morning.
This is a big day, and I know that it's something that you've been living with, as you said there, in a conflict for a really, really long time. It's out there now. How does this moment feel?
It's funny because everyone I've spoken to, you, have all been so supportive.
There are always questions in regards to Phillip Schofield's sexuality. For several years, and many of his colleagues at ITV have even alluded to Phil not being straight for many years.
You see, you don't mind dunking a bit of beef, do you?
There's a competition, have a look.
However, the number one question for everybody was, why now? Why after 28 years of marriage? Why now did he choose to tell the world that he was gay? Many people speculated that he wanted to wait until his daughters were old enough to understand the adjustment. However, many alleged behind the scenes that it was due to his ex-gay lover trying to expose him. This Morning's showrunner, Matthew Mcgreevy. Now, on face value, you would think it was absolutely deplorable to out somebody's sexuality in this way. But people began to dig and came to the conclusion that Matthew Mcgreevy, that it was probable that he was getting groomed by Phillip Schofield since the age of 11. And many people left with the question of how was this allowed to happen? And if it did happen, who knew? And raising the question, has the television network, ITV, been covering up for an alleged child predator for several years? I hope to investigate all of these allegations and more in today's video, the tragic downfall of this morning. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is proudly sponsored by Juvia's Place. Now, don't watch the hair, I look a mess, but they sent me a PR package with a bunch of different liquid blushes. These blushes are supposed to work really well with the blushed rougey palettes that they came out with, the powdered blush palettes from earlier on in the year. So I decided to choose a color that would match my top, and it looked really cute, and decided just to work how I usually would. However, what I was not expecting was the amount of godforsaken pigment that there was with this product. I tried to work with it thinking that I needed to trust the process, but apparently, yeah, you can see. So I decided to wipe one side off, and maybe just one blob is what I know. That wasn't what I needed either. I began to start questioning my life's decisions at this point, and this is where my husband came in. It's a little goes a long way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely pigmented.
It's something. Okay, I did not.
Okay, boo-boo.
So yeah, after wiping all of that off my face, I decided to go in again with the tiniest little dot to see if that would make any difference. And as you can tell, even from that tiny dot, so much pigment came out, but I decided to work with it. I thought I was going crazy, so I decided to compare it to one of my usual liquid blushes. And as you can tell, the pigment for Juvia's Place is insane. Honestly, there is literally no need to use anything else at this point. I went in with the Blush Rouge Volume 3 and put that all over just to set it, then went in with a highlighter just to make it pop, and then went in with the Juvia's Place baking powder, and then topped this little bad bitch off with some metallic lipstick from Juvia's Place. It is absolutely stunning, and as you can tell, girl, she is the moment. If you would like to get your hands on the extremely affordable Juvia's Place liquid blushes, I will leave the link in my description down below, and until next time, friends. Matthew Mcgreevy is a young British actor who is around 26 years old. Mcgreevy is from Hyde in Manchester, and he has been acting since he was 8 years old. It is alleged that Matthew Mcgreevy and Phillip Schofield met around the time that Mcgreevy was around 10 to 11 years of age. The couple met at the Two-Faced Theatre Company, in which Mcgreevy attended in Duncanfield, which was owned by Simon Schofield, who has no relation to Phillip. Well, he's a longtime friend of Phillip Schofield, and Simon and Phil met when Simon was 12 years old during their stint at a theatre show called Oliver. So it seems like Phil has many friendships with young boys. Phillip was a patron of the Two-Faced Theatre and would often do some workshops with the students and attendees. By age 18, Mcgreevy had already had some small screen roles under his belt, including Hollyoaks, In the Flesh, and the second series of The Mill. So what's causing the internet to believe that Matthew was groomed by Phil? Well, in order to understand that, you kind of have to look at the timeline of events. So let's get into it. According to limegoss.com, this timeline of events shows Phillip's involvement in history with Matthew Mcgreevy after meeting when Mcgreevy was between the ages of 10 or 11, which they believe supports the allegations of grooming. Okay, so let's start with February 2011. In February 2011, Matthew makes his first Twitter account called @Matthew Mcgreevy, and at that time his bio read, a 15-year-old cheeky chap, performer and twin. In March 2011, Phillip follows Mcgreevy on Twitter. Mcgreevy is around the age of 15. Upon the follow, Matthew tweets the following to Phillip. At Scof, hey Philip, thank you for following me. How are you? From March to April 2011, Matthew tweets a few times to Phil, and Philip never responds back to any of the tweets of Mcgreevy during this period of time. From December 2011 to November 2013, Matthew then makes a second Twitter account called Matthew JMC Grieve. Matthew asks Philip to follow his second account. Then Matthew tweets a few times at Philip, but Philip again doesn't respond to a tweet that Matthew sent. In March 2014, Matthew makes another Twitter handle called Matt JMC Greevy. Matthew is about 18 around the time of making this additional Twitter account. On March 30th, Philip tweets at Matthew on his newly made account. He tweets, "Hey Matt, welcome back. How's the acting going? Got your big break yet?" Philip is also seen tweeting Matthew again saying, "All good, see you on the This Morning sofa soon then." This is the first time that Philip tweets at Matthew, and Matthew had just turned 18 a few days prior. On April 2014, Philip tweets the following: "Congratulations on your 2 show at Matt, Harriet's Army on CBBC and The Mill Series 2 on Channel 4 out soon. Results." In July 2014, Matthew is invited for a day to visit the This Morning studio. Matthew is still 18 around the time of the visit. Mcgreevy is quoted in an article as saying, "I couldn't believe how everything was done so quickly, and I learnt a lot from Phillip Schofield. I am very new to TV, and I'm always learning. I have learnt a lot from the Two-Faced Theatre Academy, and they have opened many doors for me. I don't know about you, but I'm getting kiss ass from this Matthew." In December 2014, Philip tweets the London studio saying the following: "Just recorded the @ChattyMan Christmas show in London studios. There may have been tequila." Matthew tweets a reply in which you can't see because the Twitter is private, and Philip responds with, "So funny, bit rude for Christmas Day." Then Matthew replies and Philip replies with, "I know, shocking." In January 2015, Matthew decides he wants to move to London, so he creates a crowdfunding page so that people can help with the move. Philip tweets the following: "Good luck, Matthew, in the new Channel 4 series, Banana. Hope it's your big break into this crazy business." On March 19th, 2015, Philip and Matthew are filmed together in a bar in South Bank in London. Now, this was done for a viral prank video of the YouTube content creator, as well as like really big on Facebook, content creator Jack Jones.
1 million followers! Woo! Hello, Philip.
How are you?
I'm good.
This bar in particular is quite interesting because it's said to have been quite close to Philip's flat in Southwark, London. And Matthew also did a film reel project in which he interviewed Philip. Matthew was allowed to use the set of This Morning to interview Philip for his film reel. And then he makes a Facebook post linking his film reel video. Philip tweets the following and then tags Matthew: "Good luck tomorrow with your TV training day at Matthew Mcgreevy @TV_training. From this point forward, there are no more tweet interactions between the two. The author of this Line Goss article suspects that that could have been a time where they exchanged numbers and could speak to each other more directly. And once again, this is their speculation and not mine for legal reasons, okay? So in April 2016, Matthew moves to London and then starts working as a showrunner for the show This Morning. Around this time, he also becomes Philip's assistant. Essentially, when it came to his job and his position as a showrunner, he would essentially work everywhere that Philip worked. Since moving to London, Matthew's jobs and where it is that he'd be working would just revolve around Philip. Even on his LinkedIn page, it shows that he lists himself as working on This Morning, Dancing on Ice, 5 Gold Rings, which are all shows that Philip was a part of. Matthew made his ambitions to be a television host very clear, and he is present in many of the clips on This Morning on their YouTube channel. Matthew would tend to do small segments on the show, and it has been said that Matthew was actually extremely popular with the viewers. In March 2017, Matthew tweets the following: "Thanks for a great night at Phillip and at Simon Schofield. What fun we had. Hashtag 21st birthday." Now this is where things get interesting. In January 2018, This Morning wins a National Television Award. Now there is a photo of the team behind This Morning as well as its hosts on the stage, and Matthew is there. Now the reason that part was extremely interesting to me is because it's not typical for a showrunner to be on stage with some of the bigger producers to collect an award. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's a junior member. We don't expect to see him on stage with the main guys. But he was clearly in shot behind Holly Willoughby.
We love getting up very, very early in the mornings, even when it's really, really cold and dark, so that we can work on a show that we're so proud of. And I can work with someone who I absolutely adore.
Now, this part of the Lime Goss article is the part that kind of gets way more into speculation than things with tangible proof like verified fact. So I'm just forewarning you as my audience just to take what we're about to discuss with a little pinch of salt. So in May 2019, it's reported that Phil and Matthew's relationship had soured, which caused a toxic atmosphere between them on the set of This Morning. Because of this, Matthew is then moved to another ITV show called Loose Women, instead of working on This Morning. Loose Women in Britain is the equivalent of The View in America, and it airs directly after This Morning concludes. So that already raised eyebrows for many of the staff behind the scenes, because he was removed swiftly and put into another position on a competing show. Other stars of the show were said to have been extremely surprised that an extremely talented staff member was removed so swiftly and without any goodbyes, especially after all of the mentoring it is that Phillip Schofield had been giving to Matthew. However, Phillip and ITV both insist, allegedly, that this was just a promotion. There's a direct quote from the article that reads, "A source at ITV said he and Phil were close and that he just went off to Loose Women, which is a rival show to This Morning. It was odd. The two men just stopped talking pretty much. Phil had been such a support to him, and he was a really talented and hard-working guy. Some of the network's biggest names expressed their surprise at the time. He was very popular, but he never really spoke about it. It was very mysterious." People are alleged to have said that it was an open secret that Matthew and Phillip had some kind of relationship going on. So then in summer 2019, it is alleged that Phillip Schofield employs a crisis management company, and it is alleged that he pays them $30,000 a week to keep the story quiet. It is alleged that Phillip Schofield manages to get a super injunction against the press. At the 2020 National Television Awards, Phillip Schofield gets kicked out of the This Morning after party. And in February 2020, Phillip Schofield comes out as gay. Now, usually in today's society, coming out as gay is met with appreciation and pride. However, once Matthew left This Morning, it is rumoured that the crew were concerned about the secrets that Matthew could reveal. It's alleged that they felt that Matthew moving from This Morning over onto Loose Women wasn't a coincidence, but rather that he had been fired on This Morning alongside his alleged advocates, which is alleged to be fellow presenters Ruth Langsford and Eamon Holmes. Okay, so in early 2020, following the fallout between Phillip and Matthew behind the scenes, rumours and allegations are now becoming more and more mainstream as time passes. It's alleged that Matthew and Phillip had had a falling out and it had soured, and that Matthew was mad and ready to pitch a story to the tabloids. And it's also alleged that Matthew was going to admit that their relationship was inappropriate in nature. At the very least, if the allegations about their relationship was of a consensual age, we would still be looking at Phillip Schofield as abusing his power. Matthew was reportedly alleged to be furious and he felt fucked over by Phillip. It's also alleged that Dan Wootton of The Sun had an exclusive tell-all with Matthew, but then the story was shelved as soon as Phillip came out. But also, as we discussed earlier, it's also alleged that Phillip has a super injunction, so it wouldn't even be allowed to come out at this point. And subsequently, it's alleged that Phillip is now paying $30,000 a month to keep the story under wraps. And all of this aids in the assumption that Phillip was forced out of the closet. Phillip himself also states that he decided to come out extremely fast. He only spoke to the show's bosses the night before Friday's episode where he came out. Now, on February 7th, 2020, Phillip Schofield comes out as gay via a statement on Instagram. And he also did an interview on the This Morning show. Holly, his co-host, is the one to interview him.
I have never been more proud of my friend than I am today. We're going to do this together. In a moment, he wants to talk here to you to explain a little more. If you haven't seen the statement, this is what it said. You never know what is going on in someone's seemingly perfect life, what issues they are struggling with, or the state of their well-being. And so you won't know that what has been consuming me for the last few years. With the strength and support of my wife and my daughters, I've been coming to terms with the fact that I am gay. This is something that has caused many heartbreaking conversations at home. I've been married to Steph for nearly 27 years, and we have two beautiful grown-up daughters, Molly and Ruby. My family have held me so close. They have tried to cheer me up, to smother me with kindness and love, despite their own confusion. Yet still, I can't sleep, and there have been some very dark moments. My inner conflict contrasts with the outside world that has changed so much for the better. Today, quite rightly, being gay is a reason to celebrate and to be proud. Yes, I'm feeling pain and confusion, but that comes only from the hurt that I'm causing to my family. Steph has been incredible. I love her so much. She is the kindest soul I've ever met. My girls have been astonishing in their love, hugs, and encouraging words of comfort. Both mine and Steph's entire families have stunned me with their love, instant acceptance, and support. Of course, they are worried about Steph, but I know that they will scoop us both up. My friends are just the best, especially Holly, who has been so kind and wise and who has hugged me as I sobbed on her shoulder. At ITV, I couldn't hope to work with more wonderful and supportive teams. Every day on This Morning, I sit in awe of those that we meet and who have been brave and open in confronting their truth. So now it's my turn to share mine. This will probably all come as something of a surprise, and I understand, but only by facing this, by being honest, can I hope to find peace in my mind and a way forward. Please be kind, especially to my family. Phillip.
Now, the interesting thing to take away from this interview is that Phillip and Holly, when they sit down to talk about his coming out story, they continue to stress that he was not forced to come out and that he was not coming out under duress.
And I think it's really important to stress as well that you haven't had your hand forced here at all.
This is my decision.
This is your decision.
This is my decision. This is absolutely my decision. It was something I knew that I had to do.
A newspaper source said that the public coming out was very last minute, as if something were about to drop and Phillip had come out ahead of that. And it has also been said in print by an interview done by The Sun that an insider who sold stories to The Sun stated, "You only give an interview with The Sun to stop something else from being published." Now, his daughter Molly's response, who was 27 at the time, she posted a photograph of the family together on Instagram and posted, "Love you always, so proud of you." Now, it's said that Phillip's wife was extremely tearful. However, a source close to the couple is said to have said that she is absolutely shattered. Steph is being a rock for Phillip. She has always been, but there's no denying that she is absolutely shattered by all of this. She and the girls love him very much and will support him as much as they can, but the knowledge that you have been living a lie for so long is terribly hurtful. They added, It's humiliating to think that you're married to someone who doesn't love you the way that you love them. Now, whilst the public found Phillip's coming out as a positive thing, behind the scenes on the show, everything was crumbling. Many viewers of the show would say that Phillip would seem distant and stumble over his words often, or even just in general looking anxious during the live shows. And a lot of people started noticing that on many occasions, Holly would start taking the lead on the show. Now, shortly after coming out, several more allegations begin to surface. A post from the WhatsApp group called TLS Boys, which is allegedly a WhatsApp group chat, which is supposedly a chat for the London studio ITV staff. A lighting technician called Miles Gibby leaks the following message. Fresh off the press, the truth about the coming out party. Truth is, Schofield has been shagging a runner on the This Morning set, reportedly looking no older than 12. Fucked him over, so he's gonna go to the press. So he had to come out publicly. Phillip, you dirty old hag. Now, since this leak happened, Gibby's LinkedIn profile has since been deleted. However, somebody was able to grab a screenshot, which of course validates the fact that he did work for TLS for some time. And then a tweet from a well-known journalist surfaces online. A tweet from the journalist George Bombay Salvador. And the tweet also includes a photograph of George with Matthew. It reads, "This is the ITV showrunner, Matthew Mcgreevy, who forced Phillip Schofield to come out on This Morning last Friday. He has a deal in place with the Sunday papers to tell his story. But although we, the press, are sometimes a bunch of wankers, we never make people afraid or ashamed to come out about their sexuality." And then we have a show regular, Katie Hopkins. Now, I know Katie Hopkins has said some of the most vile, horrendous things, but when she's talking about the gossip behind the scenes, that woman is always telling the truth, in my opinion.
Oh my God. So Phillip Schofield has returned to the sofa at This Morning, and he was in hiding because his brother had been convicted of messing around with young boys and sex assaults against young children. Meanwhile, Phillip is back, and ITV This Morning are pretending that no one had any idea that for the longest time something very strange was going on between Phillip and a very young showrunner. So much so that they went out for dinner and this runner was on all of Phillip's shows, and Uncle Phillip used to give him some very special attention at quite a young age, at which point Ruth, who also used to be on the show before she was binned, put in a complaint about certain behaviours that were never then talked about. Now it turns out that Holly Willoughby has actually gone and done a runner because it's said that she has shingles, and we don't know whether these are the sort of shingles that you get because your co-host brother has been found guilty of sexual assaults against children, or whether they're the sort of shingles that you get because your co-host had some quite unusual relationships with a young runner himself. And meanwhile, ITV are trying to pretend that there's nothing going on and there's nothing to see here, a bit like a duck that's very calm on the surface of the water, but underneath is paddling like fuck and shitting itself at the same time.
According to Katie Hopkins, it was actually Ruth Langsford who had filed a complaint about this at the show and was subsequently fired. Now, if you don't know who Eamon and Ruth are, they are a husband and wife, sometimes duo and sometimes separate presenters, and they used to host a segment on the Friday This Morning show. Essentially, they were regular secondary hosts. So if for whatever reason Phillip and Holly were not available, Ruth and Eamon would take the wheel. Ruth had actually been one of the longest serving hosts of the show prior to her departure. She was also one of the main panelists for Loose Women, which is pretty much like The View over here. Which, if you remember, is exactly where Matthew ended up working after leaving This Morning. Ruth and Eamon have had a rocky relationship with Phil and have said this publicly. So let's get into what the alleged complaint was. So if you don't know what's alleged, Ruth Langsford and her husband were both let go of This Morning. Ruth and her husband have always had a turbulent relationship with Phillip Schofield. Ruth is alleged to have filed a complaint with the This Morning show with nefarious allegations against Phillip. Some people allege that Ruth Langsford first became aware of the quote-unquote situation back in the summer of 2019. Insiders are quoted as saying, "It seems Ruth Langsford found out about it in November 2019, and the rest is history since all of that came out in the bullshit interview with Holly." Now, around the time of the complaint, the general public thought that the complaint was about Ruth Langsford herself. They thought that the complaint was about her and her husband being let go from the show. But now it's believed that that alleged complaint was more so about the power dynamic between Phillip Schofield and Matthew Mcgreevy. Ruth and her husband both state that they were never given a definitive answer as to why they were let go. So, as you can see from the timeline of events, you can understand why many felt that with their extensive history together, his privilege within the show as a runner, and the subsequent allegations, that the initial bravery of Phillip Schofield coming out may not have been bravery, but rather silencing a predatory narrative. Well, that predatory narrative would come back to haunt Phillip when his brother Timothy Schofield would be sentenced to 12 years behind bars for sexually assaulting a teenage boy. And just like that, things went from bad to worse for Phillip Schofield, and his words will come back to bite him. Now here's where things take a dark turn. Phillip Schofield's younger brother, Timothy Schofield, who currently is 54 years old, he was found guilty on the 3rd of April 2023 on all 11 offences he faced in his trial involving sexual acts with a minor. He was subsequently sentenced to 12 years on May 19th, 2023. The abuse was from around October 2016 to October 2019. The child is said to have been 13 years old at the time. Timothy alleges that he was 16, obviously with 16 being the age of consent here in the United Kingdom. Timothy was suspended from his job as a police IT worker for the Avon and Somerset Police Department in December 2021 when the criminal proceedings started. The police released a statement upon suspending him due to the fact that he may not be a public-facing officer, but his proximity to the police could be a reason of concern. Timothy's trial concluded on April 3rd with him being sentenced on all 11 accounts of offences with a minor. It was a 10-2 jury conviction after 5.5 hours of deliberation. Timothy denied any sexual acts between himself and the victim, but does state that they did watch pornography together. John Swan enters the chat. He states that they both themselves but not each other. He told the jury that he had been gay his whole life and kept it hidden from everybody. Sound familiar? Stating, "I'm not guilty of these charges, and that's why I have stuck to my guns the whole way through and pleaded not guilty the entire way through." The trial took place in Exeter Crown Court, and the victim said he felt emotionally blackmailed and forced to participate in sexual activity. Now I know what you're thinking.
Just because Schofield's brother is a predator doesn't make him a predator too.
And I'd agree. However, Phillip Schofield is alleged to have lied to the general public surrounding his brother's case, and it turned the entire British public against him. Phillip denied publicly having known anything about what his brother had done, and released the following statement on Instagram, which was cleared by his lawyers. The statement reads, My overwhelming concern is and has always been for the well-being of the victim and his family. I hope that their privacy will now be respected. If any crime had been confessed to me by my brother, I would have acted immediately to protect the victim and their family. These are despicable crimes, and I welcome the guilty verdicts. As far as I'm concerned, I no longer have a brother. However, during the trial, it came out that Timothy actually did confess his wrongdoing to his brother Philip on or around September 2021. Timothy recounted tearfully a phone call it is that he had with his brother Philip, stating that he was on the verge of taking his own life. And then in the trial, Philip had read out a written statement on how his brother had come to confess to him throughout a business trip that took place in London. Mr. Schofield said they had a meal and spent several hours talking before his brother raised the issue of sexual activity with the complainant. He said that the defendant, in an extreme state of agitation and as angry as I have ever seen him, Timothy Schofield expressed suicidal thoughts but rejected the presenter's suggestion that he see a GP. Tim said he didn't want to take pills. At some point in the conversation, Tim told me he was also impotent, and I responded with, there are pills for that too. Presenter continued, I was washing up and Tim was standing behind me and said, you are going to hate me for what I'm about to say. I said that there was nothing that he could say that would make me hate him. Timothy Schofield then told his brother about watching porn with the team and performing sexual acts. Mr. Schofield's statement continued. I turned and said, what did you just say? He said it was last year and they were alone together. Tim said it was just this once and I told him it should never happen again. The presenter said that his brother then tried to give him more details about the incident. I said, fuck, stop. I shouted at Tim, he had to stop. I didn't want to know any of these details, but he made it sound like a one-off. I said, I don't want you to tell me anymore. You've got to stop, just never do it again. Regardless of how that happened, it must never happen again. The public seen the inconsistencies between Phillip Schofield's statement publicly and the statement it is that he gave to the police puts a bigger, already glowing spotlight on Phillip Schofield and the allegations surrounding him. Was he lying to the general public or was he lying in court? With the allegations against him, it drove the public to question if he was just like his brother in regards to Phillip Schofield's relationship with Matthew. The allegations surrounding Phillip Schofield are yet to be proven, but it does put a kink in the armor in the disintegrating thoughts about his character. So before his brother had officially been sentenced, Philip was absent from this morning, taking pre-planned leave during the trial and up to his conviction. Alison Hammond presented alongside Holly Willoughby throughout this hiatus. And it said that the public really enjoyed the chemistry between Holly and Alison. This was yet another factor that didn't help Philip's standing within the ITV show. Around April 17th, Phillip Schofield returns to This Morning. In that episode, he thanks his fans for their support in him returning since his brother's conviction.
I wanted to say that it's really lovely to be back. I have missed the show, everyone here, and also to you. And I wanted to say thank you for all your kind messages and support, which were really appreciated. So thank you very much indeed. On with the show. Should we do it? Shall we?
After Philip's return to This Morning, loads of different tabloid newspapers had been reporting on the growing divide between Phillip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, his co-host. Holly deleted all photographs with Phillip Schofield in them since the trial, and many have stated that the couple have looked uncomfortable presenting with each other, with sources from This Morning staff stating that the only time they would even talk to each other was when the cameras were rolling. Some believe that her disdain towards Phil started with his conflicting stories when it came to his brother. And obviously with Holly Willoughby being a mother of 3 or 4, I do believe, that might hit close to home. But others are stating that she knows about the Matthew Mcgreevy story that is alleged to come out and wants to distance herself from Philip as much as possible. However, Holly Willoughby wouldn't have to wait long for her relationship and association with Phillip Schofield to be severed, as Phillip Schofield would decide to step down with immediate effect. So, since all of this has taken place, more recently, Phillip Schofield has stepped down from This Morning. He, and quote, stepped down with immediate effect. And he also got a nice 6-month payoff for leaving the show. This came as a sudden shock to the viewers of This Morning because it wasn't a regular send-off like we've seen for previous presenters such as Fern Britton. He wasn't there. And the crew just said their heavily scripted goodbyes that lasted merely 30 seconds.
Hello and welcome to Mondays This Morning.
Now, we can't start today's show without paying tribute to the man who spent the last 2 decades sitting on the This Morning sofa, Phillip Schofield.
So, as a show, everyone on and off screen at ITV and This Morning want to say a huge thank you to Phil for what he's done to make the show such a success over the last 21 years.
Quite simply, we all know he's one of the best live television broadcasters this country has ever had. And we and all the team wish him all the best for the future.
Yeah. So, Holly's now taking a break over half term. She'll be back in the studio in 2 weeks on Monday the 5th.
It's not the kind of send-off that you imagine for somebody who'd been working at that position for 14 years. However, after his impromptu leave from This Morning, all of a sudden, loads of people who had worked with Phillip Schofield in the past had a lot to say.
Schofield has been forced out at ITV. They say he quit, but of course he was ejected from the aircraft at some speed. You can expect to see a few things now. You can expect to see him well and truly thrown under the bus. He's been told he'll get other projects. None of those will be happening. Expect to see Brand Willoughby go into overdrive to distance her from Schofield. She will never speak his name again, I guarantee it.
It is stabbing the
Professional
back.
integrity, and I don't want to be
if she has,
associated
excuse
with
me, if
something.
she has her own professional integrity, why isn't she coming out in public and saying, I have my own professional integrity, he has done something which will reflect badly on me, but she again is being as false as he is, and nobody is talking about the elephant in the room.
However, it doesn't stop the fact that Phillip Schofield is a two-faced... Oh, I think the sound went off then, because I was invited...
I've had so many run-ins. He is an obnoxious, horrible man, and I don't know why he's still on television. I went on his show, and he insulted me. He was rude. He was horrible. He was laughing at me. He was absolutely sniggering at me.
With Phil, I mean, I believe he's like the monster of daytime TV, to be honest. He's rude. He's like, people should sit still, speak when you're spoken to. Just a very, almost aggressive attitude, no matter how nice I've gone in.
But what are my thoughts? Well, I think for me, this whole situation just comes down to 2 simple things: reputation and integrity. Reputation and integrity are important in our personal and professional lives. They serve as the guiding principles that shape our character, actions, and interactions with others. A strong reputation and an unwavering integrity contribute to the building of trust, credibility, and long-lasting relationships, both on an individual and an organizational level. A positive reputation can open up doors to opportunities, and conversely, a tarnished reputation can have detrimental effects. In today's digitally connected world, integrity and reputation go beyond individual encounters. Organizations, brands, and institutions rely heavily on their reputation and integrity in order to thrive. So it doesn't surprise me that ITV would give him this paid leave and say please never come again in order to protect their own brand reputation. But what's so bizarre to me is that the reputation of Phillip Schofield was so pristine for so many years. He was the viewer's choice, the people's person. But a series of situations taking place and unfolding in the public domain has led the general public to believe that Phillip Schofield is nothing more than a horrible man. Beyond the allegations that have been made on the internet and behind the scenes, people are now coming forward stating that Phillip was rude to them as a guest. And viewers had noticed that he cuts a lot of his co-hosts off.
Emmerdale Twisted teacher Maya, that's actress Louisa Klein, will be here talking about.
Guys, we're going to have to jump in there and stop you, I'm afraid, because we're a bit tight for time at this end. So thank you, Ruth, and we'll catch you guys a little bit later. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, Mamma Mia performing in just a moment.
The general public watched as Phillip Schofield used his privilege and power to jump a 10-mile-long queue in order to pay his respects to the Queen. The public watched as Phillip Schofield kept a huge secret from not only them, but his wife of 27 years. In a very impromptu public display of pride without any warning. The public has watched as Phillip Schofield has allegedly lied about his involvement or knowledge of his brother's transgressions. And after 14 years of working with ITV and This Morning, not a single person has come forward in defense of Phillip Schofield. I think his reputation speaks for itself. As a Brit, I have seen the public turn from pro-Phillip Schofield to anti-Phillip Schofield. And I can say with absolute certainty that this wasn't always the way. It could quite easily be that Holly Willoughby has orchestrated this public assassination so that she can take all the limelight for herself and be the lead host of This Morning. Or I think it's most probable that Phillip Schofield has already been undoing the reputation of his public persona with the private acts of his lack of integrity. So even if the allegations are true, it's clear to me that the public has already made their mind up on Phillip. He's set to host the National Soap Awards this year on June 3rd, but I'm honestly gonna be surprised if he does. In fact, I'd just simply be surprised if he ever gets a job. So if there's anything to learn from this situation, it is that the person you are behind the scenes is all that truly effing matters. Because in reality, do we really ever truly know someone that we see in front of a screen? Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. I really enjoyed getting this together with my researcher. My researcher did the damn thing on this. As a non-English native, she really just delved deep into this story, so I can only thank you. Thank you so much for your hard work on today's story. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to my sponsor this week, who is Juvia's Place. Thank you guys for your continuous support. I know you guys have my back and I have yours. Also, I want to say a massive thank you to my members, my patrons, as well as my Twitch family. Thank you guys so much. Without your support, I would not be able to continue doing what it is that I do, so I do appreciate you. And with that being said, I will see you in the next video. So I hope you guys have an amazing day or evening, and until next time, you beautiful, amazing, badass bitches. It's been Paige. Bye.